Alrighty, good evening. Jonathan Albin, Game Master J, and I am answering any questions on any topics about role-playing games while working on a map for one of my mini campaigns. All of my campaigns run concurrently and contemporaneously, so players in one group can theoretically run into groups on other days. So we set up and run occasional crossover episodes and fun stuff like that. Today, my map I'm working on is the country of Draconia, also known as the Swarthier Plains, and we'll go into more of that as we go along. But I am here as a public service, if you will, for anybody who is a storyteller or game master, regardless of which genre or time period or class or type of role-playing game that you play. My personal preference is a much more open game system called NycosRPG, but we'll talk about that perhaps a little bit later in the episode. Today, like I said, we're working on the map of Swarthier, so let me get back at it, shall we? Feel free to ask me any questions along the way, and I'll be watching back periodically to see how it goes. Scale it down. No, you don't want to miss this. Icon. That's interesting. Scale a bit. Foliage. Probably not going to be big enough. I'll wait for that. So for that, let's see. trees up or whatever. Brush. Size. Velocity. Slow. Font size down a bit. And back over to yellow. Smaller font. Bigger font. Much more alive. I think for the other ones, I'm going to switch over to the dark. I think we will call this library. David? Open. Open. I can put that in ones. There we go. Would make sense. Save this. Open. Open. Symbols. That's a little big. A little big. Indeed. Indeed. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Jonathan Albin, and this is Dungeons and Dragons Ask Me Anything, Game Master J. I've been a Game Master and role player for 49 years, and I'm willing to answer any questions about any subject you want, from world building to role playing to how to balance encounters, how to develop game state equations, and even work out conditions within game state. So feel free to ask away. In the meantime, I'm working on a map of an area known as the Swarthier Plains, or the Nation of Draconium. And I'm using WonderDraft if you're wondering which software. And tables. Yeah, ZZZ, that's asleep. Well, work. That'll work. Language. So if you have any questions you want to ask, feel free to do so. If not, I may be cutting the show off a little bit early tonight because I've had a couple of really long-running shows, and tonight we're just not popping like usual. So if so, then that's just it's not a reflection on anything other than fatigue. Maybe we've been doing it so many days in a row. I don't know. Yeah. Oh, there we go. There we go. That works just about right. Alrighty, so the adventuring group. Oh, I didn't do want to do this. I want to put in the pathway. This size. Wrong. Yes. Put the right one back. Labels. Labels. Water. Very good. Whoa. There we go. So if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat. I'm Jonathan Albin, and I am the Game Master I have been a Game Master. I consider myself to be Game Master J, but I've been a Game Master for 48 years, pretty much non-stop. Average of one session a week for that entire time, including periods during COVID where I was running 9 games a week. Good evening.
It just depends how you look at it, I guess. Well, some people enjoy it, some people don't. It's your playstyle.
Well, you're here, so.
Oh, you're not streaming?
Maybe, I am. I'm on the stream. This is NycosRPG. Dungeons and Dragons Ask Me Anything. Game Master J answers your world building, role play, and counterbalance and game state questions. And how can I help you, young squire? Come in, Ray. I scare you off already, huh? Didn't expect
What are
me.
you up to?
I'm streaming. I'm answering questions if there are any. I have one viewer before you came on, so I don't know if that was you or someone else, but if you was you, great. Not okay. Well, somebody's got their eyes on the page anyway. I'm working on a map of the Swarthier Plains, which is my Monday group. They go by the name Strange New Worlds because they all are 8th iteration characters coming into the 9th iteration. And so they're having to rediscover everything about the world, starting all over again. And so it's been kind of fun and interesting because they have chosen what they decided to remember and not remember from the past, and are therefore determining what they have to rediscover. And they had one of their players actually decide that he couldn't handle it because he had never ever in his entire life as a player in Dungeons and Dragons with like 12 years of experience ever finished a campaign with a character that had the possibility of going on and on in the world. And so he decided he'd instead take a couple weeks break and decide whether he wants to bring in a new character or doesn't know if he can get his mind around the idea of running the same character in an ongoing life. He had never ever done that before, so fun and interesting concept for him to have to discover. And I didn't have a particular agenda of questions for tonight, unlike usual. So if you've got something in particular you'd like to bring up, I'm sure we can find some ways to wax poetic about it for a while. Nothing comes to mind, huh?
I'm not sure. I guess.
I mean,
I don't know, managing a player that doesn't fit into the group. Or
that's a good one. That's a good one. Well,
so
yeah,
if you all start and you've got random people, and there might be one or two players that just aren't quite a fit for the group, but you're not too sure how to say, "Hey, sorry, it's not quite the group for me." So whether,
that's tough.
Setting about session 0, like
okay. So
what's the setup for a session 0?
Yeah. Okay. So that's a good question. So actually, both those are good questions. So I'm going to try to play answer A and then B, or B and then A, probably. So the reason to have a session 0, I've talked about that. I've got several direct videos on it. You can find those in the. I'm going to put the flag right here. I'm going to hand it so I know to put the flag up.
Your mic's got a slight feedback. I don't know what's going on.
Okay. I've probably got a fan.
It's not super obvious, but it's annoying. When you talk, it's sort of got like a
sound of a fan, probably. Let me go see if I can turn it off. Hang on a second.
I don't know if it's your fan. I mean, it's just slightly. It's like you're talking through a fan a little bit, but it's like almost a metal noise. I don't know. Maybe it's.
That should take care of the majority of it. That it seemed to help.
I mean, if it's that hot there, just leave it on.
Oh no! The issue is that it was on because it was hotter earlier in the day, so it was still on a higher setting than I usually. Usually I run it in the setting it's on right now, and it's manageable. But I had turned it up because it was really hot this afternoon. And when we were on and not talking, we didn't have to worry about it too much. So yeah, the purpose for Session 0, which I've talked about before, is that you want to be able to answer any questions that your players have and go over what you as a game master kind of want to tell as a story, and find out what the players want as far as what they want from the game, because it's important to play something that both you want to play and they want to play as well. Not,
couldn't that partially be covered in the advertisement for players?
Oh, that's so hard to do. When you're advertising for, you go to an LFP looking for players. When you put out an LFP, generally speaking, the players want to get from that just the number of players in the level. It's hard to say level 1 through 4 medieval Scooby-Doo adventure. It's hard to because then it stereotypes what you're going to tell and doesn't really give enough information and can cut off some players that might have come otherwise. And to the second point is if you're trying to filter your players in advance by doing so, you actually are depriving some players of a game they might have enjoyed because they've got a mental picture of whatever you wrote. Like for example, we're easy because we can say, come play a new role playing game because we're going to be talking about the property NycosRPG.
I think
but if you
it's easier with role playing game. I mean, if you're specifically after those players that are playing for fun, and some guy turns up and he wants to build a min-max character and wants to and upset the party and just generally wants to be the best in broken builds and
well, most of the players that have that as an agenda actually want to play with a group that is not like them because that means they will hedge their bets and have a better chance of being, quote, the winner.
Yeah, that's what I mean. If you get one of them that just ends up in a group of just new players or just people that are just playing casually what they want to play instead of having to play to win.
Yeah, but you're not going to be able to tell that from the first. What I'm getting is a player who's going to has that got to win attitude isn't going to tell you that's what he wants until you're actually in the game. Although there are certain warning signs. You can look at what a player brings to the table and go, okay, this guy's clearly a min-maxer, or what do we call it before, meta player. Whereas the average person is just going to play whatever they build, and they might have a long backstory, but people who have long backstories doesn't mean that they automatically are trying to win. You see what I'm saying? You really can't tell from the first session, even.
Depends what level you start at. If you start at level 3 and they've multi-classed into other classes,
that I think that may be a trigger because I never let anybody play other than first level. Yeah, if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, you are playing a life. I mean, for me anyway, when I'm game mastering, I will say we're playing level 1s because this is a hero's journey adventure game. That's what Dungeons and Dragons.
I'm the same, but a lot of people like to skip that and just go straight 3 or.
Well, that's and there are a lot of game masters who also they prefer to play the 5th or 8th or 20th level character because that's what they're comfortable handling. It isn't true of everybody, but those that are, they want to have that lead in. But generally speaking, when you do a session 0, that's going to be determined right then. But so I don't think that even lets you know which kind of player you have.
I guess you cover. With session 0, is it mainly if anyone has any fears or topics that they don't want?
No, see, that's new. That's absolutely new. That definition of session 0. Thank you for mentioning that.
Someone's got a fear of drowning or whatever.
Yeah, that's all brand new. Nobody ever did that. Ever. It's only been in the last 3 years. I swear to God, 3 years. Is the only time I've ever heard
aware of people period that's been happening at the moment.
What's that?
This soft be aware of everyone. And everyone's super sensitive. Like there's respect, and then there's just I don't know. Yeah.
Well, what I'm saying is that when I say session 0, I have that is not one of my concerns about what a session 0 is. And I suppose if a player brought it up, I would probably draw attention. I would answer the questions, but generally, if they, I don't think to put out a caveat or a label for those kind of things at all.
I just don't want to be stuck in and you prepared a game for hours and you start playing and fear of clowns, I can't do this. And you're like, oh.
Well, then you say, why are you playing a game? The key word in the sentence is that it is a role-playing game. It is not real. It can't trigger you. It mechanically cannot trigger you. You have to choose to be triggered. See what I'm saying? It's not something that is.
I don't agree myself, but yeah.
Well, that's okay. That topic is a topic of philosophy. If you know anything about human philosophical thought, the concept that words can harm you is absolutely Lockean philosophy. And unless you ascribe to John Locke, it's not true. Words cannot harm you. Words can only elicit in you an emotional response, and therefore it's on you, the receiver of the
I don't know. You
response.
can manipulate the brain, and you repeat something enough, people have a fear of it. So if it's,
Wait,
triggers.
whoa. I'm sorry, I have to disagree. The idea that if you repeat something, it's going to make a different reality. That seems that's no.
They do it with torture and all sorts. Like, yeah.
Well, what do you mean? I don't know what you mean. No, I don't. I don't agree. If you're like saying that somebody's going to be Stockholm's syndroming a player because they're going to browbeat them into doing something or other in a game, I think that's actually up to the player to go, I don't want to play here. I don't want to play. That's a choice they can make.
Yeah. I agree with that.
That's all I'm saying. Yeah. All I'm saying is that's a choice you have to make. And if you choose that you don't want to play, then that's fine. And if I start to play a game and you feel anything that's uncomfortable, by all means quit. But that's not my job to change my game to match what you're thinking or feeling. That's all I'm saying. Does it make sense? Or am I completely off my rocker? Yeah, if a player has an issue with something and they feel triggered, they have every right to say, I don't want to play anymore. And that's fine. I'm not saying that you can't stop or can't quit because you're already in the game, so you have to play. No, that's crap. That's like, I don't know if you know the old Satanic Panic Dark Dungeons. You ever heard of that? I have.
No, I don't know anything from the 1800s.
Oh, thank you. You're a funny guy. You're a funny guy. It wasn't that long ago, you silly person. But in that period of time, there was an argument that Dungeons and Dragons actually caused people to like worship Satan and do diabolical rituals and actually cast.
If you've got
hexes.
that view, you can say the same with fantasy books and all.
Oh yeah, oh no, they do. They did. That's what the whole Satanic Panic problem was. Well, what I'm getting at.
What about AI? AI is the devil and blah blah.
Well, that's the new one, yeah.
I'm just guessing. I'm going to assume that there's groups out there saying that.
Yeah, well, I'm sure if they aren't now, they will. And now that you said it, we're going to get blamed for it. That Nycos channel, those two guys that are on Nycos, yeah, we're going to go after them. They are the next new evil artificial intelligence folks because they said it.
We got people here that think that spiders floating in the wind is conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
Some trails or something, but where it's just to do with how the spiders take off with their nests, how they transport them in the wind.
Mm-hmm. Spiders are evil.
What? I had a lecturer that would threaten to take marks off if you killed a spider.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the world's leading spider experts. That's partially why.
Mm-hmm. So do you think Draconia should end with AEA or EA?
Draconia. EA or ANA?
If you go AEA, then it's Draconia. And if you don't, then it's Draconia.
Well, it could be Dracona. Could still be Dracona without the... Wait, is it Dracona or Draconia?
What is a false Hydra? I want to use it in my next session, but I can't find much on it. Okay, so a Hydra versus a false Hydra. The only thing of which I am aware, because it doesn't... I don't believe that's actually in the books. It may be in one of the expansion materials for Dungeons and Dragons. But the difference between a Hydra and a false Hydra is that a true Hydra which is actually called a Lernaean, Lernaea, a Lernaean Hydra, as is the one from Hercules, was fire breathing. And so all of the heads breathed fire, and therefore a true Hydra would have fire breathing and the head regenerating trick. If they are a false Hydra or a non-Lernaean Hydra, I believe they would be a Hydra that has just the regenerative head function and not the fire breathing. I hope that answers the question. That was this because I'm as a game master, I generally use the oldies but goldies, so to speak, from the monster manual. But I don't use a lot of the stuff from the expansion books, like Eberron and stuff. So any new monster type, if you give me a page number, I can go look them up because I have all the reference books, but I don't actually run the monsters that are like that. So in the question of using a false Hydra or a non-Lernaean Hydra, the one that's in the D&D books, if I remember correctly, is a standard Hydra, which is a non-Lernaean Hydra.
Here we go. ChatGPT's telling me.
Okay, and check it
Regular
out.
Hydra is large, multi-headed reptilian, resembling a dragon. 5 heads, maybe fewer. And where does it say about false? Oh, sorry. Okay.
No worries.
Now let me read it. I'll see if I can get my head around this.
Sure.
But okay. So false Hydra, its appearance can be more ethereal or otherworldly.
In other words, a false Hydra is probably a non-book version. The fact that it's trying to describe it ambiguously suggests to me that it's probably just anything that is not a traditional by the book.
Yeah, I think so.
Hydra. And the reason why you would want to run a by the book Hydra,
it says it may have features that make it supernatural or haunting.
Yeah, that's ChatGPT making stuff up. That's the way.
Yeah.
I've used ChatGPT enough to know that when it starts going ephemeral and spooky, then it's actually guessing. It hasn't got a clue. So it's just I don't know what it is, but it's not that. So the fact that it does not list, the way you can find out is put false Hydra in quotes when you're talking to chat, because then it'll see that phrase as an exclusive phrase, and we'll look for only that phrase when it's looking and it's search on its side.
Oh, it's a fan-made homebrew monster. That might be the problem.
I have a party of 3 level 30 that we're going to go in the face of a false Hydra to push up their level. Okay, this is a great point. So you are going to have a party of 3 level 30 characters that were going to want to hunt down a false Hydra so they could grind up some experience points before your final dungeon. Is that what I'm getting? That's what he wrote. I'm just making sure that I'm saying that right.
Party of 3, level 3. Going to use a false Hydra to push your level up a bit before the final dungeon.
Okay.
It's a level grind.
So now we're talking. This actually brings us to a really great point, and that is, game masters do their job for different reasons. Some game masters do what you're recommending, and that is pick a monster that's moderately tough but not going to kill them, with a CR rating that's high enough for them to gain enough experience points to get the level up or whatever, so they get to the points that the players want, and therefore they are catering to a player audience. Am I getting that part right? That's what you're trying to do? Because that is so much, yeah. So that's pretty much the opposite of the way Dungeons & Dragons, as I've played it for 40 years, was ever done. In other words, the players don't dictate to the storyteller what monsters they want to fight. But in the case of where you're playing as a game master who is actually more like a judge and referee, then that's okay. I mean, if that's what the players are attempting to do, that's fine. But to me, that makes absolutely no sense. From my standpoint, if you're the storyteller and game master, the Lernaean Hydra will kind of... I'm trying to make it easier on them and not make it to where some overpowered NPC has to come save them. Gotcha.
It looks to be a few different false hydras. It looks like a homebrew. One says that it uses terrible song and pulls things underground, and another one says that it's a sickly white
Yeah.
with long neck and
So
human heads instead of dragon. It's
yeah,
like,
those are all sounds like a whole bunch of homebrews that are being
yeah, it
used to
is.
terms. So no wonder he's having a hard time finding it. So let me talk to you about a different way of doing that. Is let's say you wanted to use a classic true Hydra. If you want to use a true Hydra, if all you're looking for is the experience point boost, you as a director, you as a game master, choose what the CR rating is of the monster, regardless of what the book says. Because all you're looking for is a way for you to balance the game against the players so that you're not overkilling them. You're not blowing them out the window, and you're not making it a walk in the park either way. So that's called scaling. And that scaling process either has to happen in advance, which means you have to know your players pretty good. Because when you say 3 level 30 characters, first of all, you're blowing the mind of most people that are viewing this, because Dungeons and Dragons, by the rules, Dungeons and Dragons by the rules says that a character is fundamentally maxed out at 20th level. They give a parameter for how you can progress beyond that, but there aren't any rules any longer. You are now outside of the parameters of Dungeons and Dragons, the game, once you get above 20th. So if your characters are at 30th level, you're already off the table. You're already moving away from the books, and you're going to be homebrewing anyway. So therefore, you can run a flat-out true Hydra with all of the glory. Just give it fewer hit points, or give it a limited resistance so it only can resist for so many rounds before it loses its resistances, or take away its lair abilities and run it without the lair abilities.
All of these AC, all stuff like that.
Right, you can modify each of those. Strig and I were talking today about something that I call the rule of 8, and if you can grasp the rule of 8, any game session you play can put the players in a competitive place where they feel that they're working hard, and you didn't have to change the game too much. And with the rule of 8, you just determine what the players have as all of their complete modifiers, and then add 8 to that, and that is the general armor class of the monsters they're going to fight. Because when you have, if you just look at just the sheer numbers on a 20-sided dice, if the roll to hit is an 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, or 20, that's 12 out of 20, which is about 60% of the time. Which means that better than average times, they're going to hit. Better than average times, they're going to deal damage, but it's going to leave enough of a healthy gap. There's going to be that part where they fall out, that 30% where they have the chance of taking some damage. They have a chance of not making any headway against the monster. And that's
whatever it is for them to hit +8 is the number you're after. So
right.
with the efficiency of in the weapon,
Right.
what the normal attack modifier is.
Right, but you almost have to do this in a silent way, because you don't want to tell them that's what you're doing, but you want to internalize what their numbers are, so get from them their general modifiers. What's your, when you're on the attack and you get all of your benefits, all of your built-in modifiers, what is your number? And they'll say, well, I can hit down to an armor class of 5, or I can hit anything above a 5. You go, great. The AC of the second monster is a 13. You want to make it a little tougher, bump it up 1 or 2. You want it to be a little weaker, drop it a couple. But if you have that number that you know that you can add that 8 to, what that does, that causes their base dice roll to become the 8 or better. And therefore you get the right percentage for it to be a dangerous but acceptable level. And when things get bad, you can do things like, for example, they're beating on the monster, but they're not killing it fast enough, and you're afraid you're going to cause too much damage to them. Simply have the monster slow down, and when the monster slows, its armor class gets reduced. So now it goes up to a 9 or a 10. So I mean, they need to roll, drops lower, becomes a 5 or a 6. So they're backwards, didn't I? I mean, that's how it's working with the inverted numbers. So, if you want to make it easier on them, once you have the rule of 8, drop their armor class, which drops that number that they need from the 8 down below, And if they're doing too well, you can have the monster become irate and enraged, and therefore get a modifier to give it a better plus, so they therefore gets. So either which way you can scale it. That's all you really need to. That's the core secret rule. If a dungeon master knows that bit, they can handle any game session, any group of players, any number of players as well, because you just simply scale a monster and multiply the monster against the number of players. Or if you're doing for example, a Lernaean Hydra, one of the reasons that a Hydra is a really good monster for a large group is that it preserves for you action economy. Because what the other challenge that happens is when you as a game master, you can end up with real problems because you have a monster that has 1 attack and you have 8 enemies. You don't know which programmer stuck with us. Here we go. Okay, anybody can kill a god. You should say, guys, we're done. You're retired. Congratulations, you're all gods now. That's I play characters up to Paragon level when they make whatever their book last. What do they call it? Their last level bonus level.
I got an advert. I don't know if they do.
What's that?
I've got an advert. I don't know if they do.
You got an advert? Okay, we'll give it a second. If you have an ad, just pop in the word ad and I'll notice the hush up. Of course, he's probably on an ad, so he doesn't hear me anyway. Yep, yeah, there we go. No problem. Let me know when we're clear.
I am, but they could have one from anywhere from 10 seconds to 50 seconds. So.
Gotcha. Woo! Got a new follower. Yay! Never got to see that before. That was cool.
Oh, is that your new follower thing?
Yeah, I turned on the alerts. When they were
over, I'm guessing.
Must be. Anyway, it says when they were level 15, they killed a vapor god. If you're to the point where your characters are actually facing off against gods, if you aren't ready or don't want to play at that level, you can say, guys, congratulations, you're all done. People don't win at Dungeons and Dragons. That's as close as they're ever going to get to winning at Dungeons and Dragons, because when they get to the point where you're having to come up with creative ways for them to keep advancing, and it's a burden to you because now you're having to move beyond your comfort zone, it's okay to say we're done. It's okay to retire. Pick a new character and we'll start all over. Level 1, new story. Or level 5, new story. Whatever your comfort zone is. But you don't. If they are to the point where they're running those really high levels, if you're fine with it, then keep going. In which case, then your question actually is valid, which is a homebrew. Yeah, you want a false Hydra just because you don't want them to be dead when they're done fighting it? Sure. Did that cover it, programmer? Programmer 56. I wonder if that means that he's 56 years old, or that he started in 1956, would make him even older, or is he 5'6"?
I used to run my own random number that meant nothing. So.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, good. So yeah, if your main boss, if you've already plotted out that you've got a main boss that's level 40 and has all of his minions and appropriate defenses to give you a fair and equitable level 40 fight, more power to you. I bow to your proficiency, because long ago, actually about 35 years ago, I had my fill of that. I had a group that I had reached my Monty Hall stage and had been giving out magical items like nobody's business, and then they all showed up the next session saying, we want to play the characters that got all that really cool stuff at the end game last time. I said, no, that was the last session. And he goes, no, we got all this stuff now. We want to go and do stuff. It's like, you can do it at somebody else's table, because I'm not equipped to run at that speed. So, so More power to you if you want to. If you have a level 40 boss. I say that I say that it's my limit, but the reality is that with the system that I run now, there is no longer a cap. Players can run virtually forever, so there's no level up requirement at any session, and the storyteller doesn't even necessarily know what the player's capabilities are, other than what they describe. And it doesn't really matter because it's all back to numbers. So. Who is your boss, by the way, programmer? I'm just curious. Oh, that's funny. You told him no to that one? That's actually funny. You got that string? They're gonna create a
I read it. That's cool.
Humidifier and put in holy water? Yeah.
It's amazing.
That's pretty funny.
I would be tempted still to maybe not stop the vampire with it, but like give it a weakness of some form.
Just give it disadvantage. Just give it disadvantage for a round or two as it acclimates to holding its breath. But do vampires breathe? That's the next question. They are undead. I suppose it would still burn them because it'd be humidifier. But then the question would be, what's the humidity setting? If it's a humidifier, it's going to take a number of turns to get up to full speed. So
you could have a dice like a 1d6 or so. I don't know what dice you'd want that rolls each round that hurts the vampire during the combat.
Just make it so they have to make a saving throw every round. That'd be like they're running through a poison, an acid cloud.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, saying no to that, I can see at the moment when you don't know what to do with it, you panic and go, no, you can't do that. But that is a clever idea. It's not one I thought of. That actually sounds like the kind of stuff that's in John Carpenter's Vampires. If you haven't seen that movie, watch John Carpenter's Vampires. The story follows the adventures of a group of professional vampire killers as they travel the country killing off vampire nests. Very funny movie. It's one of those movies kind of like Army of Darkness. It didn't intentionally mean to be funny, but it's hysterical to watch anyway. So that's like a friend of mine came up with a splinter gun. He could take he found a way. He used magic missile, but he used magic missile force power to shove toothpicks through the air. So he couldn't stab a vampire in the heart, but he could shoot him in the face with a whole bunch of toothpicks. Ah, damn, that hurts. I understand. Every group's different, and every game master's different. Oh, which H.P. Lovecraft? I'm a big Lovecraft fan. Which book are you using? Sounds like Color Out of Space, which was a horrible movie, by the way. Don't bother spending your money on that Nicolas Cage piece of crap. But the book's really good. And the character, I love your villain name too. Of course, the guy that was on with us yesterday was Xanderfell. I saw Xandercroft, and I was thinking, oh, it's the same Veldercroft. Good villain name. Showed up in a South Park fractured but whole. I don't know. Could be Nyarlathotep, but I don't remember. It's a weird thing to have to admit, but I've never watched a full South Park episode ever. I've only seen one Simpsons episode ever. A Narrowlith, okay. Yeah, Narrowlith actually has a pretty good write-up in the DM's Guide, but it's not near that high a level. Or not DM's Guide, Monster Manual, I think, or one of the principal monster books has the Cthulhu mythos in it. And I know I've got it in the old classic Deities and Demigods, and that book had all of them. Gotcha. I have not seen Fractured But Whole.
It's not what that sounded like.
Yeah, exactly. Don't say it more too. He typed it out.
Like,
he typed it out twice. He typed it in twice, and I had to reread it like 3 times because the idea that
had it wrong. I'm like, wait, no, it's.
That's why I had to put the comma in there. Fractured, but whole. Not the way it looks. It's good thing I put that adult warning on our website, on our page. Oh, definitely not made for children right there. That's something. Oh, it is what you think it is.
Oh, it's a South Park play on words. That's what this will be a South Park game.
Oh, it's South. Okay, got you. Okay, yeah. Oh, feed that kind of a line to a straight man like me, you're going to get really bad responses. It is what you think it is. Yep. Alrighty. Notice how long it took for me to get it. Strig got it and had to explain it. There we go.
I heard you say it before.
Yeah. Oh, that's like that game. Have you ever played that? There's a word game that does that, where you've got cards, and the words that are on the cards are not
Cards Against Humanity.
No, it's not Cards Against Humanity. It's a word game. Mad Libs, where you read the word that is on the card, and when you read it, the letters spell words that sound collectively like the larger phrase, like Oh, see, I can get myself in all kinds of trouble right about now because I see there are 2 of you that advocate for Cards Against Humanity. See, I've been playing games way back before that game wandered into the screen, and there was a game called Apples to Apples that Cards Against Humanity is built upon or based upon. And how CAH even got published was that Cards Against Humanity, Apples to Apples, the license company, was trying to sell it to Hasbro or Parker Brothers, and so they farmed the plot out to other games companies, and therefore did not defend their own license. And so this other company jumped in with Cards Against Humanity, and they were pretty guerrilla about it, because what they did is they did not take any money for the license. They didn't acknowledge that it came from Apples to Apples, but it was the fundamental rules of Apples to Apples, and they just started publishing and selling and not keeping the money. They would turn around and use the money to make more cards and whatnot. So there was no money that Days of Wonder, the publisher, could go after. And so it grew out of that to the point where it was so big that they had enough money to protect themselves if they had. And by that time, Hasbro had already kind of screwed the pooch on the way they did Apples to Apples, releasing it as the game of wacky matchups or wacky relations. And it's like, no, you've killed what the game originally was. But yeah, I know there are a lot of people that love Cards Against Humanity, and maybe it's because I'm old. You know, I'm really old, like glacially old. Cards Against Humanity sometimes gets under my skin. It's like, please give me a regular Apples to Apples game. We don't have to play this. That's just me. I don't like. I'm a person that tries to protect sensitivities instead of bringing them out. And yet nowadays, that's what we have to do is shake out our laundry and put it out in the street and say, "See, you must appreciate me. You must like what I like." Okay, I'll get off my soapbox now. It's maybe it's because I'm of the light humor version instead of the dark humor version of everything. But Cthulhu is a good way to go for a supervillain because it's literally unknowable, so your players can't have a clue what you're doing with it because you can do just about anything. One of the biggest challenges with that is that if you start down that road, then just about everything has to stay in that same Cthulhu vein because you can't ever go back and draw a hard line again because everything is now in a world where surreal exists. So if you haven't noticed, I've not been working on the map for a few moments here. I got the basic parts done, so I'm leaving it up here and while I'm germinating what else I need to add to it. So, also, if somebody wants a particular map design, I can actually walk you through how Wonderdraft works it, or I can actually create it and put it as a PDF on my website, probably. This is designed by me using the software. That's just throwing stuff at the wall. So, programmer, got another question? I think we beat that one to death, so to speak. Level 40, bad boy. If not, I'll go back and see what else I could possibly add to this map. I think it's pretty much done. I know I can add. What? Gotta reread that. That was funny. The other thing I did, I told them there's only one mimic in game, and I had an NPC say to them, sometimes when I'm outside, I stare at the moon and the moon stares back. And they ultimately blew up the moon, killing the one mimic, using a lot of prayers to multiple gods. Oh, I get it. You said a riddle for them by saying there's only one mimic in the game, and then had somebody suggest to them that the mimic was the moon. That's funny. That kind of stuff does happen. You create a similar story when I was a young game master. I had a group of players that were always beating me on initiative because they had a couple of them were rogues and a couple of them were archers. They were fighters, but they were archery based. So it seemed like I could never win initiative. My monsters always had to go last, which meant I always got to fight with half of the force that I started with because they would mow down the first half with their archery. And so finally, in a fight, I rolled initiative and declared after they had all rolled that I had won initiative against more than half of them. And they were all mildly surprised because I had never successfully been able to do that before. And they didn't say anything. They went and played through the round. But when I got done with the first round, and because by the way, this is when I'm having 20 players at a time in a session. As we get ready to start the second round, one of my players declares, okay, guys, I just figured it out. They're using halberds of speed. So I was having them use halberds. And I kind of looked at him kind of funny and raised my eyebrow. And party members asked him, what he was talking about. And he said, well, based on who won initiative and where they all fell, if Jonathan beat this person or that person, then the dexterity of these creatures has to be X, which is impossible because according to the DM's guide or the monster manual, they have a relative dexterity of something like this. So therefore it can't be that, so they must therefore be halberds of speed. If they're halberds of speed, then they're all magical items, which means they're probably going to do more damage than usual. So just be aware that all of the monsters are carrying halberds of speed.
Is this the part where you kick the person out off the table and say, see ya?
No, because I'm a yes and game master. I said, why yes. Remember that shipment of loot you let go by the other day? You admitted there was a wagon load of seemed a little heavy, but you didn't stop it. It was secretly carrying an entire shipment of specifically built halberds of speed for this detachment of Grolem. So. And so it became legendary that in a certain area on Nykos you can find this long lost shipment of halberds of speed. So, because I wasn't about to admit that I had made a mistake with the die rolling. No. And only time I've ever asked a person to leave my table was when other players basically begged me to ask a person to leave. And I've had in my entire span as game master, I've only had 4 TPKs. 1 was intentional, 2 were accidental, and 1 was player induced. In other words, they told me they wanted it to end that way. So it wasn't intentional when we started, but they wanted all to die. They felt that they deserved to be eliminated because they made mistakes. So. Minutes are going up again. There is. I think the biggest, most dramatic change I ever made as a game master in game within the time. All right, you have a great night. You're 3 hours ahead of me, so you're East Coast America, and
Have you told them about that you're looking for players?
Oh no, quick, yeah. Before you take off, we are looking for players Saturday mornings, my time, which would be really early your time. We want to start at 10, so that would be 7. Based on what you're saying, you're 3 hours earlier than me.
There's a bit of a different game system as well. More theater of the mind, more role play.
And we will be recording it on Twitch. And if you want, you can be included visually. And we also have a way to get you onto audio through the guest program here on Twitch. So if you can make it, we'll be starting at 10 a.m. Pacific time with a session 0 pregame kind of thing. So it would be great if you could be there, and if not, that's cool. But thanks for stopping by, and hope we made your day. And thank you again for following the channel. Greatly appreciate it. Okay, so it's how many more time zones do we have to get? We have to get 22 more time zones, right? to get one person from every moment, so we can literally be playing the game around the world at the same time. That would be amazing. 24 players all playing 1 hour off from each other.
Oh, you haven't set up. Oh, that's right. You don't have a bot. There's a Discord underneath the stream next to the about area. Or actually, I can post it in as well.
Yeah, just go ahead and repost it. It's fine. Yeah, it's just down below the channel on Twitch. There you go. I'll hear you study. I was way used to that. Is there a Discord?
Do you remember when Discord came out and you'd send people Discord links and people would think that you were trying to hack them?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they do seem like well, with me and my hacks lately, it does make me a little nervous, right?
Yeah, you don't want another Discord hacked. That wouldn't be fun.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be really sad. Welcome. Yeah. I've already set up as. Yep. See you next time. and I set him up as a citizen so he can now get into
Your view count just went up.
Oh, it did. Look at that. Yay! Welcome back. Welcome back. Or welcome first timers. We get excited. I'm Jonathan Alvin, and this is NycosRPG, and this is Dungeons and Dragons Ask Me Anything. So feel free to pop any question you want to into the chat, and I'll do what I can to answer. And some background on me is I've been game mastering for 48 years. I learned from one of the guys that designed the game the year it was released. I don't recall whether it was actually pre-release or shortly thereafter, but it was so early there weren't any books, and I didn't even have any poly dice. I was using regular 6-sided dice, and we had to come up with combat systems using 3 6-sided instead of a D20 because we didn't have any polyhedrals yet. And I've been doing it nonstop for 48 years with an average game count of 1 per week. And right now I'm running 4. And during COVID, I was up to 9 game sessions a week, both online and, at that time, all were online. But I'm currently running 2 online and 2 live stream. And if you are watching and want to be a part of the games on Saturday, 9 a.m., I think 9 a.m.? 9 a.m. 10 a.m. 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Pacific time on this channel. Just hop on. We'll be doing a session 0. Anybody that shows up, I'll tell you how to get the character sheets and all that kind of stuff. It is a derivative game. It's one that I've been building on for a while, but it's a slightly altered system. But it's a rapid play. It takes about 22 minutes to build a persona and be ready to rock and roll. So. And all of our 5 players went, yep, gone. Oof. Oh shit, he's going to ask us to play again. Run. Run for the doors.
Well, one was him, so.
Yeah.
We had 3 people.
We swap back out, we're back down to 1. It's showing more on the service because it tracks them by the minute or something like that. So. Mine's got the live count operating. Oh, we could probably talk about things like the calendar. Nycos' calendar is different from every place else. I think I mentioned it yesterday. 8 days a week instead of 7.
No, you didn't say.
Yeah, so there's what I determined was I like the idea of having a.
You just like the Beatles song. That's all it is.
That is true. I did include that in my thought process. I liked having 8 days a week, and I also like the idea that you could have 4 8-day weeks, so you have 32 days a month. And 32 days a month.
You just want us to have shorter weekends. That's all it is. The extra day of work.
Well, no, because what I countered with is that in the real world, I switched calendars. I operate on a calendar that has completely renamed every day of the week. So, for example, Sunday is Fun Day because that's when I don't do any work on that day. I just do whatever I feel like doing. Then Monday, of course, for me is also a fun day because I don't have a salary work day that I have to go to. So my Monday is actually a fun day too. Everybody goes, that's not fair. You get 2 fun days a week. And I said, yeah, that's because my life is twice as fun as yours. And then Tuesday is news day. So I normally do anything that I'm going to release, any new material that I'm going to put on Tuesday. Then Wednesday is Friends Day, and I try to use that to reach out to people that I have on my friends list that I haven't talked to in a while to try to stay in contact with folk. And then Thursday is Thursday is Chores Day. I do all my laundry and stuff like that on Thursdays. And then Friday is Why Day, and that's when I talk to my son and my grandkids and stuff like that because that's what I'm here for is that's the why of my life is my kids. And then Saturday is Matter Day, and that's when I do something volunteer work and that kind of stuff here locally. And then Sunday back around to Fun Day again. So I don't work on a regular schedule because I'm a writer and a novelist, a public speaker, and a game master. So with all that time as a storyteller and game master, I'm here to answer any questions. So feel free to pop anything in. And if nothing comes to mind, we'll figure out something else to talk
how do
about.
how do you tackle modules in D&D? Here we go. There's one for me.
Okay, great.
I find they're way too complicated and I can't get my head around them. Is there a way that you personally break them down?
Absolutely. Well, absolutely. First thing I do is I read them cover to cover, and I only read the text box they say to read to the players.
Because I get very intimidated. I mean, I ran one starter and it was fine.
Right.
But after that, it's been very intimidating and seems like a lot of work to try and even get my head around what's going on.
Right. So the way modules are written, traditionally anyway, I don't know if it's still the case, but generally, historically, they're written so there is our text box in each section that are to be read to the players.
Yeah, it's got that. So it'll be like a description of the area or something like that.
Well, it'll be whatever the person that designed the module wants you to make sure you convey to the players. So it may include the furnishings, it may include a description of sounds that they hear, it can include all kinds of stuff. So those narrative boxes are the only thing I read the first time through. But I read those straight through. Once you've read all those straight through, then you have to go through it a second time. When you go through it the second time, you're looking at the actual dimensions of the space to familiarize yourself with what kind of sounds might be influenced by where you are. So, for example, if it gives you a narrative box, but it says that they hear that when they walk through the entryway, perhaps they're hearing it from the top of the stairs, or perhaps they're hearing it from many hallways down. The way you describe it is going to be dependent on what you interpret to be that framing. And so I read the second time through for framing. Then the third time I read through, I'm actually reading it for what the monsters are and what their capabilities are, and to see whether or not the module as written is using them or not. Almost never are they used properly. So if a monster is listed as having a +1 sword, they almost never use the +1 sword. They're usually armed with a dagger or a knife or some other crap.
So for me, it's trying to get my head around the story or the plot and the characters, and just trying to get my head around that. And
well, see, Dungeons and Dragons tried to fix that. D&D tried to fix that, but they went in reverse. What they did instead is they complexified it by giving you what's going on in the mind of every player in every scene. So I can see why that might be confusing, because if you read chapter 1, first section, it says there's a monster there, and then it says if you have an action, this happens. And if the monster runs away, then it goes to section C3 or whatever. So now you've got to track that in the book and move that NPC over to that space in your head, at least, to make sure you don't forget them.
It's also learning how they fit into the story and who they are, and when this happens, then this is revealed, and all that sort of.
Right. That's because most game masters are most game master writers are trying to build into the story the mechanisms of role play, when role play should be the part that you have to come up with on the fly, and the rest of it should be automated. So it should be Monster X is in this room. And then later on, if you get to the room where he should run to, say, if Monster X ran away, then he came here. And here's his stats again. That's not how they're written. They're written so you have to try to memorize what you're doing on the way. And so, yeah, I can see why it can be intimidating.
Yeah, it's not fun.
So what I do instead is I just read the whole module for the story so that I understand what the story is. And then I usually just chuck the module because I'm going to change out the names anyway.
Yeah, I end up changing it unless you're railroading your players. It's going to change a bit anyway.
Oh, you use that word again. You know that triggers me. Woo woo! Railroad. Get on the train. Oh man.
Yeah.
You did that on purpose, didn't you? Now. Yeah, if you're intentionally keeping them on the railroad, then yeah, by all means use the module names, because the players, when they're in between sessions, they're going to go and read your material anyway. So.
Depends on your play. That's part of why I was leaning towards homebrew as well. Because it's not hard to go, oh yeah, there's an NPC, that's their name, I'm going to look it up to see if I can find anything on them.
Nowadays it is. What I found funny though is that I tend to use names from movies and other things in my game. Like they ran into a marshal in a town the other day, and so I mentioned that it was Marshall Fields. Well, the next week they came back and said that's not fair because Marshall Fields is a baseball diamond. It's like, what are you doing looking up anyway? It's just an NPC in a game. Why did you go look it up? And you go, well, I just want to make sure we could see. Like they were looking for the.
I just kick them out straight away if they're looking stuff up.
Really? That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
To me, that's like
because I mean, if they're going out of their way to cheat, I don't want them in my game.
They don't see it as cheating. It's a game.
It doesn't matter if they see it as cheating or not. It's like going to the movies and then looking at what happens beforehand, and then sitting next to everyone, telling them what's going to happen. Like,
not necessarily if they keep it to themselves. If all they do is play, if they meta,
as long as they're not metagaming it, like they know what's.
As long as they're not sharing their metagame. Because if they've gone to Reddit, to me that's the metagame. They've already gone into the meta universe.
Yeah, I mean, I was meaning if they. Oh yeah, I'm going to do this because I know this is what the story is, and this person's weakness that. Or this is a big secret, so I'm going to go and kill the bad guy that we don't know is the bad guy yet.
Right.
So I'm going to intercept this or whatever it be to.
Well, that's like when programmer said he was going to be running for a group of 330 level characters just so they could pad their experience points pool. That cracked me up. It's like, what? That's backwards the way I think. I didn't know how to say it at that moment. It's like, you are intentionally putting a monster out there that you don't care about in order for your players to ramp up more experience points.
I feel like the story would go on longer because of that. Maybe that's what he wanted, though.
Well, he was adding he literally was adding them on. He said he was literally adding on a.
Maybe he wanted them to fight this monster, and he's adding stuff for them to fight it, and it's like, I don't know how much influence the players had. Maybe he just
it's actually the way I think.
Be high level.
If you go back and read it, I think he said that the players wanted to add something else. They it was like. This goes back to when you and I were talking about your game, and you didn't have a real picture of what an NPC was that was an enduring living being in the story, and the players were running roughshod over it. It's like, well, you've got to make sure they feel real.
I guess if they do that, then I start thinking about who that NPC knows and all that sort of stuff.
Right. That's pretty funny. Leo's on Johnny on the spot saying hello to everybody. I love that. Leo's one of my new players. The one that's on the Monday game.
Ah, nice.
And anybody signs into the Discord, he's like right fast to say hello. So yeah, that's the. Well, that's what I do with modules. The reality is, the really funny thing is that when I started back in my day, being a high school kid who was working a part time, I wasn't working a job yet. I was only 12, 13, 14. I could get some money by like mowing the lawn or whatever. But if I was going to go and buy something, I wouldn't buy a module. I'd buy a pad of graph paper or a pad of hex paper or whatever.
Well, modules run once and it's gone, but if you can create your own stuff, you can make a lot more out of it.
Right. That was only true until I turned 16. And when I turned 16, I went pro as a game master. All the way back then, I was a professional game master because I would buy a module for, back then it was between $4.99 for the smallest ones up to $7.99 for the biggest, fanciest module.
It was pretty cheap though. I mean, how long would that last?
Well, a module usually was 3 to 4 weeks of adventuring. But what I would do is I would run them as a marathon. So I would schedule it. I'd buy the module. Let's say it was, let's just use the worst of all cases, Tomb of Annihilation. No, Tomb of, no, what's it called? Not Tomb of, Tomb of, wow, why can't I remember now? The original D&D one that killed everybody. It was Tomb of Annihilation. But anyway, the point was, you had an adventure that was set up for 10th level characters. Your players started at the beginning of the night, and whoever was left standing at the end of the session, whoever had gained the most kills, gained the most experience points, achieved the most goals or whatever, would win the module. So I would buy.
You'd almost.
Tomb of Destruction. Tomb of Destruction was the original. So I would buy the module for $9, let's say, and then I would charge everybody $9 or $5 to enter.
Yeah.
And so I would get 10 people to play over the weekend. So I'd play out five people play on Saturday, 5 people play on Sunday. Everybody tracked all of the experience points they earned by themselves in the game to track it. That all had to be confirmed by me at the time, so therefore it was a bit of a slog. But when we got done, whoever had accrued the most hit points of damage, blah, 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 I would give them the module that we just played. So I got the module played through. I have an eidetic memory, so I'd pretty much commit to memory the entire thing. They'd get the module, and I'd make 10 times the money. Or 5 times the money. So
yeah, but you still ran it.
What's that?
You're still running it for free, I guess.
No, I was charging.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You should say it.
Yeah, I said, I bought it for 10, and I'd say, hey, we're going to have a tournament this weekend. That's what I meant, a paid event. Tournament, $5 entry, and if you win, you get a $10 prize. So I'd get 10 people to enter, one person would win, and I'd be ahead 5 times the money I paid. So the next week I'd be able to buy the next module and some dice and a soda. You know, it wasn't like I was making huge money, but money meant more back then too. So, but that was back in the dark days of Dungeons and Dragons when your parents would tell you, your friends would say, I can't play this weekend because my folks found out we were playing D&D and I can't play anymore because it's going to send me to hell. Like, no, it's not. Just calm down. And at the time I was very devout Christian, and so I would actually on the weekends I would go to church groups and actually debate preachers in the pulpit about role-playing games. I had to speak in front of elders groups and a council of cardinals once, and yeah, it was like all over the place. It was fun. Challenging, exciting. Got a lot of sand kicked in my face because these guys were, well, how do you know so much? Because you're only a high school kid, and we've got a doctorate in theology. And I said, yeah, but you're not even looking at what the master said, because the master always said, he would say, consider the lilies of the field, or consider the workers in an orchard, or consider the whatever. And that's role play. That's think about what it would be if you were there. Then you make a decision. That's role play. Jesus was a role player. He was a game master of the ultimate game masters. Of course, get really angry preachers that are hurling the closest they can get to epithets at you because they don't like what you're suggesting. But it made for some great and fun conversations, I tell you. I think I got more dates out of that than anything else as a young teenager. Because the preacher's daughter or whatever would go, "You're so brave." The other thing too is I was fundamentally the only socially functioning geek anywhere I went. I was always the brainiac, straight A student, and so I was, always going to be the teacher's pet. But that meant that I got to use the classroom at lunch groups, so we could play D&D, or I could get a chance to use the microphone on a Saturday, so I could talk to the church group or whatever. So it was And being the socially acceptable one, I could bring the geeks over to say a football game and get a football player or two to play. You know, kind of thing. But I think it's because I was always the new kid. Moving as often as I did made me kind of fearless. And because I moved to so many different places in the country, my own Kansas dialect, my country boy dialect, fell away pretty quickly because I had been into cities and everything. So I learned how to talk good. I didn't have to sound like a farmer. Golly, Charlie Brown. Which is funny because all the places I ever lived, I can fall back on those if I want to do accents. Yeah, I can switch over to be Angus Hereford and do a Southern Texan drawl. Well, I'll tell you, partner, it doesn't seem right. You ought to just be treating people a little kindlier. More food, more food. I mean, more questions, more questions. Clean cups, move down, move down. Let me ask you a question. Can you sit down with a brand new game master if you're a player?
Hang on one sec.
Sure.
Sorry, I was talking to someone for a brief moment.
No worries.
Okay. And I'm playing a game, so I've been listening.
Well, I just asked you when you sit down in front of a game master, what questions do you ask them when you go to their first session?
What do you mean, ask a game master, or?
Yeah, if you're sitting down to play at a new table, a new storyteller.
What have I personally asked, or
Yeah.
what would you ask?
Yeah, no, what have you asked? Or what kind of things do you normally look for?
A big thing now is how much spotlight each individual player gets, how even that is.
Oh, really? You had a problem with that in the past?
Yeah, too many times.
Which way? They spend all their time working with you because you're so handsome and charming?
No, they work with like one or two players, or all your stuff gets ignored. I check how much like roleplay they're doing. What's the big one I've done? I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
I think the funniest thing that I got asked one time was the guy says, "So I've built my character's backstory and I've got my projection of where I'd like to go. Can I go ahead and provide that to you as a game master? Can you confirm that these are all things that we're going to be able to do during this campaign?"
I do a little bit. Like, I try and I like my backstory mixed into the campaign a little bit.
Oh yeah, well we talked about that pretty much extended yesterday, but yeah.
I basically check that it's not just going to be a hit and kill, and that's still, you know. Mind you, like my last one was pretty bad, but the last few ones I've joined with just friends, and before then I didn't ask a lot of questions because I was still figuring out what I enjoyed and how it worked.
That's right. Yeah, to me that's a softball question. You ask me whether I'm going to have as much time as anybody else. I say, yep, I've got a sandglass right here. If you ever feel that you didn't at any point get your time, I will put the sandglass on the screen. You can sit and watch the sandglass to make sure that I don't give anybody else more time.
You use it all the time, do you?
Yeah, absolutely. I have it. No, I don't have to use it very often. My players are used to it, giving everybody fair shares. But it's here. It's right here all the time. And because all I have to do is just turn my head to see it. Generally speaking, it's in my mind's eye, anyway, so I'm always aware of how much time I'm giving each player. But yeah, at any time, I mean, demonstrate. That's good. Great. Oops. All right. As you can see, the sandglass is moving. So, okay, Charlie, it's your turn. And now I'm going to blah, blah, blah for however long. If that sandglass goes out and I'm not done with Charlie, you let me know. You just go, hey, John, Charlie. I go, okay, and okay. Well, Charlie, we're going to come back to you in a minute. Next player, go ahead and start again. And do it again. So,
yeah.
It's a very generous. I think it's a 20-minute timer, so it's pretty generous. They get quite a lot of time that way.
Those ages.
Yeah, so I don't have to use it all. I don't have to use the whole amount. That's one example. I've got 3 different sunglasses, so I have a 3-minute timer, a 10-minute timer, and that one which is 20. I also have a half an hour timer, but it's really big.
Yeah.
Tall as a table here, so. That's where you move to, you silly thing. Waka waka waka. And people started. Yeah. There we go. Now we're back. All right. Well, we are right at 1 o'clock, and we actually are at a minimal number of questions, so we can go ahead and.
Yeah, so I haven't got any others off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I've got to do.
Yeah, I got stuff got to do and all that. Yep, and it's the beginning of another week. Yeehaw! Coming up for me anyway, because my week starts on Friday. So I have a 4-day work week. Basically, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and sometimes Tuesday. But I will thank you all for participating today. Do remember we do have a game on Saturday if you would like to participate. NycosRPG, this channel at 10 a.m. Pacific time. We're going to be running a session 0 for a unique kind of roleplay game. So see you then. And if you have any questions, of course, leave the comments down below. And if you see this video on YouTube, make sure you also follow and subscribe there. So have a great day, and we will see you all next